The budget will be delivered in just over 2 hours from now. As we speak, journalists are in the budget lockup, going through the details, interviewing the Treasurer, writing their reports so they can all burst out of the blocks after the budget speech with all the details and all the hot takes. And we'll have all that here live on Sky News tonight, so don't touch that dial. In fact, I'll be back myself later on with Paul Murray from 9:30. But there's one certainty tonight, one major broken promise that lies at the heart of this budget. It's one of those big broken promises that politicians too often get away with, and it goes to the cost of living crisis, which the Coalition zeroed in on in Parliament today.
Families are feeling the impact of Labor's homegrown inflation, with the cost of almost everything going up. Food is up 10%, housing is up 12%, insurance is up 26%, electricity and gas are up 18% and 25% respectively. Why are Australians paying the price for the weak economic leadership of this Prime Minister?
Yeah, fair question, of course, because the central pledge of Labor's election campaign was that it was going to lower the cost of living. You remember, of course, Labor told us the cost of everything is going up and that a Labor government would lower the cost of living.
We will put in place mechanisms that provide cost of living relief.
Under Labor, you'll have a government which cares about cost of living and has plans to deal with it.
I'll build people's living standards up. A better future with real plans to address the cost of living.
And to ease the pressure that too many Australians are feeling during this full-blown cost of living crisis.
Taking pressure off the cost of living. Of addressing cost of living issues to take pressure off living standards. Meaningful help with your cost of living.
Yeah, that was the promise, clear cut, and clearly Labor has failed. Electricity's through the roof, interest rates gone up a dozen times under Labor, groceries have gone up, they're through the roof, rents and housing through the roof too, and warnings from the Reserve Bank now that inflation is still too high and they can't rule out another interest rate rise. And now, of course, Labor no longer actually promises to lower the cost of living. They have a different solution.
Our big priority here is to put the people front and centre. We know that people are doing it tough, and that's why more help is on the way tonight.
Yeah, like the little river band, hey? Help is on the way. Labor's failed to lower the cost of living, so they've switched to spending more tax dollars trying to help people cope with the higher cost of living that they've delivered. And there are three big problems with this approach, apart from the broken promise, of course. One is it's a high taxing and high spending approach that could fuel inflation and make things worse. Second, it doesn't do anything to stop costs going higher. It doesn't actually fix the underlying problem. And third, it creates winners and losers. It takes money from some taxpayers and hands it over to others. Labor says its biggest cost of living measure actually will be the tax cuts. Yet these are the tax cuts legislated first by the Coalition before Labor came to power. All Labor's done is break its promise not to fiddle with them. They've fiddled with them so that anyone earning more than $147,000 a year will now pay more tax than they would have, and so that over time the government's actually going to get to keep more of your money through bracket creep. Still, tax cuts are welcome. Just remember they were first legislated by the Coalition because cutting taxes is not exactly in Labor's DNA, and they'll now be the centrepiece of Labor's budget, along with a surplus. But we expect it will be a one-off surplus. No grand promises like this one when Jim Chalmers was the Chief of Staff to the then Treasurer Wayne Swan.
The 4 years of surpluses I announced tonight are a powerful endorsement of the strength of our economy.
Yeah, it was laughable at the time, and sure enough, none of those surpluses actually happened. Well, tonight, Chalmers will announce a surplus for his second budget, a surplus for this year, because government coffers have been boosted again by higher tax receipts. The worry, that's a good thing, always good to bank a surplus. But the worry is that the Treasurer will also forecast at least 3 deficits after that, deep deficits too, because spending is too high, spending is out of control. What we really need is a government prepared to tackle that. We need leaders prepared to make government smaller and more efficient instead of forever bigger, more intrusive and more expensive.